Okay, welcome. This is the recording for Always Craving More from Your Partner. You're not needy, you're wounded. Okay, and as we go along in this session, I will be letting people into the session. So let's see who's here already and go from there. Okay, so let's talk about what it's like to be in a relationship where one person within the relationship is needing something more from the other person, and the partner is feeling like they're overwhelmed and feels like there's too much going on. So let's first of all talk about the person who is feeling like they are needing more from the relationship, the needy person. And that's not my favorite thing to call somebody, to be honest, but we're going to talk about that for now. And we'll change that later on. So this person, I believe, is in a really anxious state, and they will be coming from a place of wanting something from the partner that the partner might not be able to give. Now, this can be quite incessant. This can be something that they are craving for. So let's talk about that feeling. Hey, Sam, hi. So let's talk about what that feeling, the person who's coming from the needy place. Okay, so for me, there would be, and I get this. I'm going to say it from a personal perspective. I've been this person in a relationship before, but when I'm talking about my couples, I can really see what happens to them. So the ache of wanting to be seen, the ache of wanting to be noticed, the longing that they have to have attention, the opportunity that they want from each other, from the one person wanting it from the other person. So, and there's that sort of, it's actually quite a quiet voice in the head, but it becomes louder and louder because they're saying, if only that other person in my life would actually text me more, would hold me tighter for longer, would actually notice how much I do or how much I sacrifice for them, then if they did all of that, it would be enough. And actually, if they're staying in that state of neediness, it would never be enough. Okay, so first let's look a little bit closer at that, and let's be clear on that. You're actually not needy, and you're not too much, and you're definitely not broken. But what we're looking here at tonight is you are wounded. Okay, so the family of origin, and we're not blaming parents here. I always say that is throughout our childhood, there would be parts of us that would come to a place of embarrassment, humiliation, upset, neglect, a list of things that might happen. You might come from a secure background, which is absolutely great, but even in that, there will be some wounding. It might be love through achievement, something like that. So if we're talking about the needy person at the moment, it's not that they're weak, it's just that they're so human in the way that they're trying to connect to the other person. And for me, when I see that in the therapy session, it's such a sadness because they are not in a full awareness of actually how they're coming across, because they are in distress and they're trying to get the other person to understand where they're actually coming from. Now, the other person might not be able to understand why they are becoming that emotional burden, okay? Because they're not in the same family of origin, they're not coming from the same place as the other person. So they're a bit like, why is this sort of like feeling like it's overreaction? It's far too much for me. So we're sitting in this place of what's happening to the person who's being needy. So we're just talking about that for a minute, okay? And there's a real anxiety with what's going on for them. Then we've got the person who's actually having the mental load of this person saying, I need you to be who I need you to be for me to be okay. Now, when we say that sentence, it's really quite hard hitting, because when we are asking somebody to be something that they aren't able to give us, but we will keep on asking until they lean in so much that they end up losing who they are within the relationship. And we don't want that to happen. So that craving from the needy person is not about now. When we're craving something from our partner, it is because we have that relentless hunger to be seen, to be reached out to be asking how we are, to be a lot of hinting. The needy person is hinting, I'm testing you to see if you love me enough. And that doesn't work in a relationship. We don't need hinting, we need authenticity. Let's just talk briefly about the person who's holding that emotional burden for the other person. Overwhelm, okay? And they're both really exhausted by this cyclical process that goes round and round and round. And when they don't meet the need of the other person that they are longing to have, you've got hurt on both sides because you've got disappointment on both sides. Because the lack of awareness from the side of the person who's holding that person or trying to hold that person doesn't understand where it's coming from because they weren't in their family of origin. And the person who's actually needing to be needed so much won't find that place of I'm good enough because they are not in awareness of how needy they have become. It becomes quite desperate. Okay, so when we're craving something that isn't present in the here and now, it's what we've got to look for is our nervous system is actually doing a backup system. They're reaching back to find out whether they can attach to the younger them. Okay, so we've learned our love, how we're loved as a child is consistent to how we then love as an adult. And if we've come from a insecure base of inconsistency, uncertainty, or even unsafe, what we're doing is we might come from a time when we didn't get what we want. So I talk about the 4 S's. So we didn't feel safe as a little child. We weren't seen, we weren't soothed, or we weren't supported. Now, the person who's trying to navigate this is saying, I don't know what you want from me. I have no idea what you want from me. You're asking me things. I'm trying to keep you safe. I'm hugging you. I'm seeing you. I'm soothing you. And I feel like I'm supporting you. And what happens in the relationship, the misalignment. So when we're in a relationship, we need our relationship to be that far apart. We don't need it to be this. Okay, because that's enmeshment. We need it that. What happens when we get this situation is the alignment goes that far out. And what we've got to do is try and get our couples to come back into themselves. So let's talk about how that looks in adult life. Okay, so in adult, your partner becomes the figure of those unmet needs. Okay, and what we do is we project them onto our partner. So you hope they'll be the one who finally proves that your younger self is sort of like, see, I knew I was good enough. Now, even me saying that when I go, see, it sounds so childlike. You're trying to prove to your partner that you're a good girl or a good boy. And actually, you were when you were little. It's just the parents around you or the things that you weren't accessible to you will now be playing out in your partnership now. I can't stress that enough. Most of the couples I see are definitely living in a past relationship. So they are acting like parents instead of partners to each other. And when you have the lovely, lovely couples in the therapy room, the couples that I see, you can absolutely see this play out. One person's feeling overwhelmed, burdened, trying to do as much as they can. The other person is needing them to be more than they possibly can be for us. I think about Esther Perel. She talks about one person can't be our everything. Our confidant, our friend, our lover, our whatever that list is, we can't be everything to one person. And this person is expecting that to happen with this person. Heal my wounds while I'm with you. So I want to talk about the I before we, because if we've got a situation where we've got both of them exhausted, one person's trying to hold that space, the other person's trying to get that space, what we've got to talk about is the I and the we. Okay, so if we think about the I, okay, sometimes it can sound quite selfish, okay, to start with you, but actually, believe it or not, it's the best way to actually come into a relationship, into a partnership. Because if you're doing the work on yourself, you've got more opportunity to stay closer to your partner, to be more secure within the relationship, and also come from an authentic place, a truthful place for yourself. So it's so easy to believe that if your partner simply gave you more, you would feel like if they were much closer, they were much more aligned with you, you would actually believe that that would be okay, but it wouldn't, because you haven't done any of the inner child work for yourself in the first place. So your partner will be exhausted by trying to please you. I get so many couples say, I just want to make them happy. That's not your job. I'm going to say it as clear as that. It's not your job to make somebody happy. We have to find our own solutions to happy. And I don't believe there's any happier, happy. and then we come into a relationship and we enhance that happy. We're not here to rescue anybody on this planet, okay? We're here to care for people and love people. We're not here to rescue them. And if we do that, we're the opportunity for them to sit in an I place, a more differentiated place, isn't available to them, because we're always making sure that they're okay. And one of the reasons that the partner who's sitting in the emotional burden place is doing that is because they are feeling overwhelmed by the person that's actually saying to them, I need more and more and more from you. And what we want to do is try and stop that process if we can. So some of the things I've written down here is to say to you, when you're feeling in that place, so let me read this first, okay? It's so easy to believe that your partner simply wants to give you more. Stay closer. You'll finally feel secure. That is so not true. But here's the truth. No one else can repair the inner child wounds that you have. None of it will be enough from your partner. This doesn't mean you shouldn't have those needs. Of course you do. We all need to have care and attention and loving connection. But expecting your partner to heal the wounds is like asking them to pour water into a well that you can't find. So this, for me, is where the I and the we come in. So when you're sitting in that place of I and we, think about, from it, asking yourself these questions. What am I really needing right now? Yeah. So as an individual, what are you needing right now? Where is this need rooted from? Is it truly in the present moment with this partner? Or is it something older resurfacing for me? Now, don't forget that all the triggers that we have throughout our life as an adult and as a child, it's our job to make sure that we learn to press those buttons ourselves. We don't need somebody else doing it for us. They might trigger us and we realize that that is a button that is pressed, but our job is to make sure that we press them ourselves, so that actually when you go through life, nobody can press them for you. And there's so many of them. So we will be looking at that. Actually, that's triggered me, but actually I don't go to the same places I always do. I've now pressed it enough myself to go, oh, there it is. I get it. I know what that one is. I know where that is actually based. It's definitely not in the here and now and the present. It's actually back there surfacing or resurfacing. The other question is, can I meet some of these needs myself before turning outwards? So when we talk about self-soothing, as a child, if you weren't self-soothed as a child, even as simple as putting a plaster on a knee and making a fuss, or were you told to just get up and get on? There's no self-soothing there. What we're doing is doing some nurture there. But I've got the 4 A's here. And if any of these are going on for you as a partner who's needing to be needed, I want you to think about what's going on. So have you got an attitude before you go towards your partner? The attitude would be, I'm going to get my own way. I'm going to get what I want. Then we've got aggression. Does it feel like the attitude that you have feels quite aggressive? And if you don't get what you want, you're going to act out. The other one is the agenda that I might have, because actually, I said in the very beginning, if we are hinting, okay, we're testing our relationship all the time. We don't want to do that. It's not good for the relationship. So if we have an agenda already set out, so we've already got the answer, I'm going to ask for this. I need it more than they realize. I've got to get my own way. The other A is anxiety. How high is your anxiety going towards your partner with all the other A's involved? So really think about that. What place am I in? Okay. And this is emotional regulation. This is an opportunity to slow everything down in your relationship, because it's being overwhelmed in 2 different ways. So this doesn't mean cutting off your partner. Actually, the I and the we doesn't mean that you've got to actually become single and do that journey. You can actually be in a relationship while you do the journey alongside it. And that's really important. As some people think, I'm overwhelmed, I can't do it while I'm with this person. You actually can if you choose to. So it means building a stronger and steadier I, so that we can grow in balance together without becoming a place for resentment. And I love this: silent resentment and emotional burden. So before we reach out, really think about what the questions you could ask yourself. So there's 3 questions there. What am I really needing right now? Where is this rooted? Is it in the here and now, or is it something that's resurfacing? Or can I meet some of the needs myself before going to my partner? So emotionally regulate yourself. Do I need to source that from them, or have I got it myself? So next time you're feeling what I call the hunger rising, okay, place your hand on your heart and breathe into it and ask yourself these questions. I know there's a lot of questions, but they're important. What would I say to my younger self who felt unseen and unloved? So when I do my assessments with my couples, I ask them, how did you know you were loved? And how did conflict get shown within your relationship? And even though the needy person is showing conflict, they're asking for their needs to be met, there will be a part of them that will immediately say sorry for safety, because they're trying to get their needs met, but what they then feel is very unsafe because the other person isn't responding in the way that they want them to. So then they go into this, I'm sorry that I said that. They're not saying, they're doing a blanket sorry. They're not doing a sorry for the one thing. They're just going, I'm sorry, because they want to get back into that safety net if they possibly can. So what would I say to my younger self who at that time felt unseen and unloved? What can I offer that now to myself with compassion? Now, the I of us is so important. I'm not talking about the selfish I, somebody that just goes out all the time and does what they want. I'm talking about the journey of I. If we have the opportunity to stay in a place of, I have dreams, aspirations, adventure, excitement, sexual, needs, wants, arousal, whatever your list must be, and I'm talking about must, is the dream that you had, we sometimes let go of when we meet somebody else. So I have lovely couples saying, I'm following his dream or I'm following her dream now. There will come a time when you go, what happened to my dream? What happened to where I was going to be going? So I love the work that I do with the beautiful couples that I have. We do an I process first before we do a we process, because writing down on a piece of paper and making it visual is, what did you want before you met this person? You've always wanted it, like a trip to Bali. And these are real examples. Trip to Bali to learn to be a yoga teacher for 3 weeks. Somebody that wanted to go to golf for 10 days instead of 3 because all his mates went for 10 and he felt like he wouldn't be allowed. Not parents to each other, your partners. We're facilitating the support of each of you connecting and engaging with the dreams that you had before you became into this relationship. And that's what's so important for me. When I get to the I process and I say to the partners, show me what you're doing as an I. Okay. And you can see it as a therapist that actually they're not choosing an I because they're walking on eggshells. It might not sound too good to the other person. So you can tell when you're reading them out with each other and to me that they are coming from a place of, I want to go to India too. And actually, they never thought about India before. And I said, would you go to India on your own? Well, not really. It's not sort of place I'd like to go. I'd like to go here. That is not an I process. The I process is sitting in that place. So the well-worn path, okay, of the couple that you are hasn't got the nettles and the stinging nettles and the branches coming up because it's well worn. The I journey is when all the beautiful cornflowers are still there and the wheat is there and the grass is grown really tall. There is no path. Okay, what we're doing is making that path. We're going to walk through. We've got to walk through it again and again and again to find out what our true beliefs are about ourselves, our value system. Who am I whilst being in this relationship? How much am I giving myself over? And what do I want to do to bring myself back to the I? And then it enhances the relationship. There is a lot of love in relationships. And when you see that, we've got this power struggle that goes on because we are giving ourselves, we're leaning in so much that we end up not being able to tell our truth, to be authentic, to stop walking on eggshells, to lie, and also not to be able to step back out because it feels massive. If you suddenly go, actually, I'm going to think of myself for a little while, I'm feeling overwhelmed by this. The person who's really needy will panic. There we go. You're going to leave me. I knew you'd leave me. Everyone leaves me. I'm unlovable. In CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, we talk about the core belief about ourselves. And when I do CBT and we do that spiral going down and down and down about our core beliefs, and there's many of them. I'm unlovable. I'm invisible. I don't exist. There's so many of them. I can't list them. But if we can find our core belief about ourselves, that's the thing that will keep coming up when these adverse things come up, these conflicts, this discord within a relationship comes up. And we find it impossible to sit in an authentic place or a repair place for ourselves. So, any questions? Anybody want to say anything? Please put in the chat if anybody's here. I can see that people are here. Hello. So put anything in the chat that you want to ask. I am such an advocate of the I before we, okay? Because if we don't do that path, and there's many people that are never going to, and that's absolutely fine, it's a choice. But when we start to do that journey, it can be quite scary, and that might be the reason why people don't go towards it. But what we're trying to do is secure a place for ourselves from the past and then secure something for the vision that we have for the relationship. So the I vision first and then the relationship vision second. So let me read this out to you. I love this, okay? The most resilient, nourishing relationships come from two people who can stay anchored in themselves, even when the other is in pain. So if somebody is crying or not okay in the relationship, we have to tolerate that discomfort for growth. Okay, this is David Schnarr saying this. He talks about the discomfort for growth. And that is so important because we will stonewall, we will come away from our partner whilst panicking ourselves if they're not okay. And that's not a pure relationship. What we need to do is go, and I can see you're in pain. What do you need from me right now? And obviously, wherever they are, if they're up there, you'd have to wait till they come down there before you said that. But we can't keep having the same thing. So I was speaking to a supervisor today, and it was interesting the amount of couples that are coming in. And even though we're doing therapy with them, they stay in this cyclical process of needy and emotionally burdened, and they're not coming out of it. So most of the people I see have got tools and techniques and talking therapy. They've got things that help, but actually they can't hear us enough because the anxiety is so high that when we're giving them things to put in place to change the direction of the relationship, they find it impossible to hear us. So sometimes I will send my couples off to hypnotherapy. We need to get that anxiety right the way down for them to hear us as therapists. Let me carry on reading. It's not about distancing or detaching, and it's also not about disappearing. Because here's the real truth that we don't speak enough about. It's painful to feel needy. And I want to realize that actually it doesn't matter about which side you're on. Each side is in pain. It's distressing, disorientating place to live. There can be shame, panic, and a sense of helplessness. You may feel like you're clinging when you'd rather be calm. You may know deep down that this is hunger isn't fair to the person entirely putting this in the place of the partner, in the lap of the partner. You just can't help it. That tension alone can bring guilt and despair. So my massive empathy goes out to anybody that's listening to this who is sitting in that place of needy. I need to be needed. I need to be loved. I need to have that in a constant state all the time. Your nervous system is telling you that I'm not safe. And I want you to seek therapy if that's the case, because it's really difficult to get out of. Also, it's so hard for the partner on reaching being that end of the hunger, to feel that someone's well-being seems to depend on them staying close, saying the right thing at the right time, doing enough. This may, for them, feel like they're being loving and fully in the relationship, but it starts to feel like the only way to offer love is to lose themselves in the process. That tension too is exhausting. So you've got two lovely couples, the couple, and they're absolutely exhausted with this process that goes round and round. Differentiation, which is the I and the we, makes staying connected without becoming consumed by the other person. It means each person holds a foothold in their own identity. People can choose each other freely without fear, without neediness, and masquerading as closeness. So if you recognize yourself in either of these roles, the one who reaches out or the one who feels overwhelmed by the reach, I want you to realize that actually you're not broken, okay? You are human. And humans can learn to meet themselves and each other in a wiser, gentler way. Remember, love is kind. I want you to always remember that love is a place of kindness, of authenticity. Ways that you don't ask one person to carry your emotional load. Ways that you make space for the healing, not through fusion, but through connection that honors both the I and the we. I just love that, the relationship for two whole people. And to do the I work is so important. And you can do that within the therapy sessions with a therapist as a couple. You can do the I work as well as the we work. So this was quite short and sweet tonight, but I don't know whether you can hear it in my voice, but I'm so passionate about this. I feel so much empathy for people who are in this situation, and there is many. There are so many people living the life that they don't want to live, but they want to be with the person that they've chosen. They are in love. It is in love, not just love, I care about you. They are in love with each other, but they have now found themselves in this cycle that they feel that they can't get out of. So I'm very, yeah, I can feel how passionate I am about that. Um, is there any questions? Let me have a look at the chat. No. Anybody want to comment on anything? Say anything?
Yeah, hi Lottie. I
Hi.
think it's interesting because I always do, as a couples therapist, the relationship vision quite early on with my couples. And it's really resonated with me that I'm missing something big by not getting them to do the I vision. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking of couples that I'm working with where they've gone off piste for too long
Mm.
and the
Yeah.
resentment's built up, whether that's around funding their partner and having that financial responsibility and the
Yeah.
responsibility of all the chores and the burden that that has that's created and that person has then lost their way for their
Mm.
future vision.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is interesting, isn't it? Because we see the couple, so we automatically do couple stuff like the relationship vision. For
Yes.
me, it's really important to actually go, there are two individuals coming in to see you. And actually, sometimes, and respectfully, I'm seeing two children
Yeah.
because they are coming with their own family of origin set up, their template that actually they can't change. They didn't have any autonomy over that upbringing, and they are trying to navigate a position where they do want to stay together, but they are now, and they might have been together a little while, and suddenly all this stuff has come up for them, and they are triggering each other in different ways. So if we can do the I journey alongside the we journey, we have the potential for them both to grow. And don't forget that when we talk about the I journey, some people are really frightened. What will that show? Even coming to therapy, people will say, I'm scared to come in case we end up seeing something in each other that we don't like. As therapists, that's not my intention. I come from a place of love. If they want to stay together and it's their choice, what I call the relationship by design, let's design what it could look like. And if we do the I work as well as the we work, and as therapists, we do see our couples separately as well, we can then get to know them more and find out where they're coming from. And I guarantee if you see a couple and then you see them individually, they will tell you their adventures, their excitement, their arousal, their desire, their dreams that they had. But you will also hear that actually I had to put that on the back burner, or I had to let go of that, or it's not that important anymore because I've got a family. You are important as an I as much as a we. Thank you for that, Sam. It's important and it's interesting. Couple relationships. I want my couples to hear this. It's a jigsaw puzzle, and sometimes there be things missing. And what we want to do is make sure that actually the things that are missing, we work harder on, because the things that are already there are probably okay-ish. But if there's something missing, and we can feel it in a relationship, we can feel when something, it might be communication, it might be intimacy, it might be acknowledgement, not being dismissed. But if we've got the interpretation that I'm talking about, all that will be felt. It will be heartfelt. So if the needy person is trying to have a conversation and they're really calm, but actually the other person's not in that place, or they're overwhelmed and they get dismissed, that person will go into a real flux of I'm unlovable. I cannot find a place for myself to be loved. And it causes such a discord within the relationship. And the person who's trying to hold that space will then go across. I talk about the bridge. We've got a bridge in front of us as a relationship. And what we need to do is both of us go to the middle of the bridge. What's happening in relationships is somebody's got to go right over the other side of the bridge to find out how the other person is. And when they get there, it's quite dramatic, acting out, um, not regulated, because they've waited for this person to go, oh, at last, you've come over here. And that person goes back again and they wait for the other person to. We're not doing that. We are not chasing and we're not pursuing and we're not avoiding. What we're doing on the bridge is going, let's meet in the middle and let's talk to each other about what we need from each other. We need conversations, okay? We need what I call marriage counsel once a month. Are we okay? How are we doing? We need a financial spreadsheet. I hate spreadsheets, but that's what I call it, to say, how's the money situation going on? Money's definitely rooted in a different place from family of origin, by the way. So I hope this is helpful. I feel like I've talked about it from a therapist perspective, and this is about couples. I want couples to really hear me on this, that actually if you're finding yourself in this place and you are going around in that circle again and again and again, and you'll have good days and you'll have bad days, but underneath it, it's still going on. So I want you to reach out to a therapist that you feel that you align with and get some help, because I think it's really important. This wound will not go away. We want to make it into a scar, not a gaping wound. And when the scar is healed, we can then look at it and go, I went through a lot. A lot happened to me. And I'm acting out in this relationship and I'm projecting this onto my partner. And it's not fair on them. And it's not fair on me to keep hold of this wound. What I want to do is heal myself as an I and us as a we, and go forward. Don't miss out on the precious time that we have. My saying is, we're on the time that we're on this planet and the sell-by date that we have, let's make the most of it and not stay in this place of discord and flux and confusion. Let's get happy. Okay, we've not done an hour, but that's okay. We've done just under half an hour. I've got nothing else to say on this subject apart from, let's look at what we can ask ourselves as an individual. Think about the questions that I've put together, and let's see if we can make the relationships that we have much better than they are. Thank you, everybody. I will see you for a live. There's not one in August, but I will see you again in September. And by all means, come and join myself, Elliot, and Fee on the podcast. If you, as a therapist or as a couple, want to come and talk to us about your relationship or about your work that you're doing, would love to hear from you. I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.